and kept in contact with those people. So they're not just a credit card. They're a human who you want to watch this movie and the next one and the next one. So you have to treat them like that.
Dan, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just add that the donor cultivation aspect of it is crucial. It's not just this one-time exchange where they're buying something, and that's really critical to think about, is how to continue to cultivate that relationship, how to stay in contact with them, and also just to remember that within the United States, like, we're in LA, so a lot of people here are familiar with Kickstarter and with Indiegogo, and they've heard of these things. But if you talk to people in other parts of the country and you say the word crowdfunding, they're like, what is that? They have no idea what it is. So when you think about your audience and who you're reaching out to, just remember that. Maybe if you're sending Jacques an email, of course he's getting a ton of them across his plate, but like my sister in Florida has no idea what crowdfunding is, and I think that that's like important to remember all of
What's
those
your
people.
sister's email?
I'll give it to everybody afterwards.
Just kidding. So while you're talking, why don't you explain fiscal sponsorship to people who might not know what it is and how it can benefit them, both from individual equity and from granting institutions.
So fiscal sponsorship, it's a fundraising tool, and what it does is it enables either an individual or a group or an organization to use some of the benefits of a nonprofit organization's 501c3 status. So I just used a bunch of jargon. But basically, it allows you to come under the umbrella of a nonprofit organization and issue tax receipts to your donors and apply for grants that typically only a nonprofit has access to. So it sort of opens this door to funding that otherwise you wouldn't have access to unless you went out and formed your own nonprofit organization. That is like the core benefit. Fiscal sponsors vary in what they're offering. So some of them, they're just doing that. They're issuing the tax receipts. They're giving you their IRS determination letter when you're applying for a grant. Others are coaching you throughout the process to say, this is how you write an individual appeal letter. This is what is wrong with your grant proposal and how you can make it better. These are 10 grants that are a good fit for your work. So you have to sort of vet the fiscal sponsors that are out there. There's hundreds of them around the country. And some of them are focused geographically, some are focused discipline specific. It really depends on what you're doing and what works for you.
Mike has a word.
I just wanted to do a plug for them because I run a theater festival that is using Fractured Atlas, and they're awesome. I mean, you guys have been really seamless and extremely helpful. And we, in fact, got some grants that we wouldn't have gotten but for having a fiscal sponsor, and you guys made it really easy. So.
And what about grants? Do you know about this whole granting world and how does it apply to narrative filmmakers and documentary filmmakers? I don't know what percentage we have here, but how much granting money is out there, and how much of your budget can it make up?
Typically, when you look at a budget for a film, there's anywhere from maybe 5% to 30% of your budget may be coming from a grant maker. The grant makers that are out there that are specific to film, there's not a ton of them. So it's competitive, and it's a landscape that you have to make sure that you actually fit with the mission of that grant maker. That's really critical. It shouldn't just be like, oh, they support film, I'm going to just apply. But there are also a lot of grants out there that are subject specific. So this is what I frequently see at Fractured Atlas, is these grants that I've never heard of, but that somebody is making a documentary about water conservation. And they find a funder who cares about water conservation, and they get a $100,000 grant from them. So it's the type of thing when you're researching grants and you're trying to figure out where should I apply, you shouldn't just be doing research about film grants. You should be really thinking about whatever your subject matter is and how you can conduct searches for that. We do offer some guidance about how to do that, and the Foundation Center, it's a library of grants in the United States. It's the most comprehensive place to look for grants in the United States, and it's like $20 a month to access it online. So that's where I would recommend if you're doing a search. Also, I will say that with grants, a lot of people that are applying for grants, the first time they apply and they don't get the money, they think, okay, that's it. Like, that opportunity's gone, they cross it off their list, and that's a huge mistake. If you are applying for grants, you should be applying for the same grant over and over and over again, because it's often the case that a grant maker will start to pay attention to you, and on the second or the third application, they'll give you some money. And often once you get your foot in the door and you get that grant the first time, we see repeat giving over and over again. So don't give up and don't get discouraged. That is like the number one lesson I will say to take away from applying for grants is it's a repeat business and you have to keep going back